Hi, everyone. Welcome to Backstage with Speaking Your Brand. I'm Carol Cox, founder and CEO of Speaking Your Brand. And with me today is our lead speaking coach, Diane Diaz.
Hello, everybody. Happy to
We
be
are
here.
so excited because we are talking today about what I call the expert trap, and more specifically, how to escape or get out of the expert trap. This kind of reminds me of like the Harry Houdini magicians. Like I picture them like in those tanks of water where they're like
Yeah.
all bound up and they're like handcuffed and they have to like get out
Chain.
really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Harry Houdini escapes, right? Like they get out, magicians get out. So you all can get out of the expert trap. And that's what we want you to do because we want you, number one, to get paid to speak, to get on those stages that you want to get on, keynote stages, TEDx stages. We want you to also have the bigger impact that you want to have with your message and to share your message with more people. And of course, also to grow your business. So today we're going to talk about 3 myths that many of us, especially as women, have internalized that cause us to overteach in our content, which then results in us undercharging or not being able to charge as much for what we do. And then we're also going to talk about how to then shift these myths and 3 strategies that you can start doing today so that you can start making this shift from being an expert presenter into a thought leader. So let me go ahead, and I do have a few slides. We're getting fancy here today on LinkedIn Live. So let me go and get that going for you here. One moment. All right, so let me show you our handy dandy graphic here, which is, there we go. So this is the journey that many of us as speakers go through, and this is what we want you to go through. We want you to take this journey here. So a lot of times, especially when we're younger in our careers, we start off as trainers where we are training with, if we're working for a company a lot of times, but we're training on other people's intellectual property, other people's expertise. And so like we've been given guidelines and the training materials, then we go out and present it, which is great for honing your initial speaking and presentation skills. But most of us do this when we're young. And then as we graduate from that part of our careers and we become entrepreneurs, then many of us who enjoy speaking is what happens is that we start doing conference breakout sessions, we'll do webinars, we'll do presentations, and we do it based on our expertise. So what it is that we do within our business. Again, this is really helpful. Diane and I have done many, many, many presentations over the years at conferences, at women's business groups based on our expertise, and they can be very valuable and very useful. And we want you to be an expert. So don't get me wrong. Like we know, especially in this country, that there are too many people who want to claim to be experts when they are not. So we are not telling you not to be an expert in your field because your clients need you to be an expert. Clients come to us because we are experts in what we do. Same thing, but we want you to think beyond that. This is what we're pushing you to do here is think beyond that, because if you do Google search for thought leaders, guess what comes up? Men. All white men. That's what Google thinks are thought leaders. And so we need more women out there putting themselves out there as thought leaders and as premium speakers so that we start to change some of this. So this is, just to be clear, we want you to be experts in the work that you do with your clients. We want to push yourself in your content and your speaking and in the body of work that you create. So then you elevate yourself after expert presenter into kind of story speaker and then thought leader. So these two are very much connected. When we did our Brave Bold Beyond Live virtual summits, we trained the speakers who spoke there how to be a story speaker. They delivered their 10-minute TED style talks. So that's what we helped them with. And then what we really want you to do, and this is what we do in our Thought Leader Academy, is shift into thought leadership content. This is when you take your expertise, you take your ideas, but you are able to package them into a clear and coherent thought leadership message and container. And then you embed your own personal story, your personal journey, your personal why into that. And that's what starts to develop your thought leadership body of work. And then beyond that is what we call a catalyst. And this is when your body of work, your thought leadership starts to be shared beyond you. So other people are talking about what you do. They may then start being trainers based on your work and expertise. So you're really catalyzing your message. And that's what we do with our advanced programs with the clients who go through that. All right. So then let's go here. So let's talk about 3 myths that, again, so many of us as women have internalized And this is not your fault. This is not like, there's nothing to like be ashamed of or anything like that, because again, in the society that we live in, this is how like we are socialized, how we are brought up, and what happens when we go to college, what happens in our
Mhm.
careers. And so these are the three myths that I've identified, which causes us to overteach and undercharge in our presentations and speaking. Number one is that you believe that you need to teach or to train in order to provide value to the audience and to the event organizers who brought you in. Diane, I'm sure you can relate to this
Oh, yes.
because and also we are teachers, like we teach at universities. And so
Mhm.
we know the value of teaching. And so Diane, can you share a little bit about your personal experience in this myth number one?
Yeah, I think it's a really great point because I know, for instance, when I started my business before I was working with Speaking Your Brand, I kind of fell into that trap of constantly teaching. And I think what happens too, we think we need to teach, and then the more we are putting that message out into the universe by actually doing that, that is what people continue to ask us for. So you kind of work yourself into the trap, and it's hard to get out of it because now people see you as the teacher or the trainer, not as the thought leader, and they'll just keep doing that. So I kind of fell into that as well. And it's not until, which is what we're going to talk about, it's not until you kind of push yourself beyond that and start to position yourself differently that you will be seen differently. But if you stay here, it's great to be an expert at something and it's great to teach people things. But if you stay here, then you'll stay here, right?
Right. Yes, you're limiting yourselves and what is
Absolutely.
possible.
And your
Hi,
value.
Amber. Yes, I want to say hi to Amber
Oh,
Holly, who's
hi,
here
Amber.
live with us on LinkedIn. Amber, you have all three, but you are doing a lot. Amber went through our Thought Leader Academy last year in
Yes.
2021, and of course, she was our MC for our summits, and she is fantastic. And she has a podcast called The Easily Distracted Entrepreneur, where Amber, I know you're putting out thought leadership content. So,
Yes,
give
absolutely.
yourself a lot of credit.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
I want to say hi to Melee, who says she can relate to number one. Yes. And again, so many of us do. And also, what's, I remember, Diane, is one of the first questions we asked the women in our introductory call for the Thought Leader
Mhm.
Academy is, what did they like to do when they were young? And
Yes,
what is a common answer that they give?
teacher, a performer of some kind, so, like, some kind of a up in front of people, teaching,
Yeah, it's teaching. Because
training.
think about it, when we were
Yeah.
in elementary school, most of my teachers were women,
Oh,
I think,
absolutely. Mhm.
especially in the younger grades. And so,
Yes,
and especially as girls growing up, like we thought we could probably be teachers, nurses, those very like the roles we saw most women in. And the teaching was
yes.
a lot of it. So we like think of value to be related to teaching.
I
All
think
right.
because
So the
those are very nurturing roles, and that's what we are expected to do as women, is the nurturing roles.
yes. Oh, great point. Well, that actually segues us nicely into myth number two, which is that you think that training content is what your audience wants. And a lot of times we think that if we don't provide a lot of like tactical, like do these three things or like, do this for, for whatever it is that your presentation topic is, that the audience is going to be disappointed or let
Mhm.
down or walk away thinking that it wasn't that useful of a session for them to go to. Now, that being said, if you are supposed to be doing, say, a session where you and the event organizers have
Right.
specifically talked about what is supposed to be delivered there, you want to do that. So
Yes.
if you want to change that, it needs to be happening way ahead of that time, way ahead of you showing up for that particular event.
Yes.
However, I'll give this example for someone that I was talking to last year. She was contracted by a company to do a presentation. It was an hour long. And she was, she's an expert in what she does. And so she put together the presentation content. It was very much training content, very like tactical, hands-on, which she thought was really useful and really valuable content. And guess what? The company that was not happy. That's actually
Mm.
not what they wanted. They
Mhm.
wanted the big picture. They wanted big ideas. They wanted trends in the field. Like they wanted her to
Right.
present the audience with like ways to think beyond what they're normally doing. So don't assume that your audience just wants training content. Like we are inundated with training content all the time, podcasts, YouTube videos,
Mhm.
Google, I mean, social media. Like there's so much training content.
Yeah.
Help your audience think differently.
Yes.
All right. I say hi, Rhonda. Rhonda says she
Hi,
experiences
Rhonda.
all of these. Again, we all do. We go through this all the time. And so, like, when you're creating your content, like, check yourself on these myths
Yes.
and then start to reframe. And we'll talk about some things that you can do. And all right. So, then myth number three is that you have, identity is tied to you seeing yourself as the expert or as the teacher or as the trainer. And so a lot of times, we have these degrees, these credentials, these accomplishments that we've earned, and we've worked really hard for them. And again, yes, like put those on your website, put those on your bio. Your clients want you to have those credentials and those degrees and that experience. But if you tie your identity solely to that, then it's going to be even harder for you to make that shift into thought leadership, because thought leadership requires you to not have the answers to everything that you talk about. Thought leadership requires you to share opinions, even when it's a little bit scary to do so, even when you think that there might be some pushback or some backlash from doing so. And so it can be even harder to do that when you base your identity solely on having all the answers and being seen as the expert. And so you start taking baby steps to put yourself out there, because that's going to make it easier to start shifting these aspects of your identity.
Carol, I think we see this a lot when we see, because I've had these conversations where someone will say to me, oh, well, I'm going to get this certification and that certification. And that is great. Get the certifications. However, don't just rely on those, because I think that's a comfort space for us. And we want to think that, oh, just having the one more certification or the one more degree is going to be the thing that gives us the confidence to go beyond that. But we're kind of again limiting ourselves to just identifying with those credentials and not realizing that we already have what it takes to be a thought leader, right? We don't. That's great if you want to get some supporting knowledge, but don't let that be the end of it or the be all and end all.
Yes, it's almost like an avoidance or a procrastination technique that can be subconscious, and they're not even aware that that's what's happening. But it's like, okay, if I just spend another 3 months doing this thing, then I can push off putting myself out there for another 3 months.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. So hopefully so if you recognize yourself in these myths, again, that's okay. We have all been there. This is like a cycle that we all go through. So the important part is just the awareness, and then recognize that you can be a thought leader. I know I get this from a lot of people where they're like, well, I don't want to call myself a thought leader. Like, it seems kind of presumptuous to call myself a thought leader. You can call yourself whatever you want. You don't have to put it on your LinkedIn profile. But then I always say, but the dudes do it. Like, they call themselves thought leaders, which is why they show up in the Google search results.
They call themselves gurus.
Yes, ninjas. Okay. Exactly. Yes. So if you want to call yourself a thought leader, go for it. If there's another word that you like, go for that too. But here's what I think about as a thought leader. So just think of the definition, less so the term itself. Yeah. So for me, a thought leader is someone who has an interesting idea, especially one that hasn't been talked about a lot in their circle of influence. So I know that sometimes women will come to us and say, well, I don't have anything original that's never been talked about. And it's like, that's okay. We talk about thought leadership. We talk about public speaking. We talk about women on stages. Trust me, there are other people talking about those topics, and that's great. We want them to be talking about those topics, because I cannot reach every single person on this planet. And so I'm totally fine with that.
As much as we want to.
Right, as much as we want to. That's probably not going to happen. So in your circle of the internet, like you're in your little corner of the internet, in your industry, what is not being talked a lot about that you can shine a light on? And then a thought leader also challenges the status quo, challenges our assumptions. They communicate with conviction and boldness. They inspire people to take action. And here's what I think is really important about thought leaders, especially good ones, is they cause people to be self-reflective and to learn more about themselves. This is why thought leadership is about helping your audience to think differently, to think in new ways, because they're going to learn about themselves, which will then help you to change your industry, your field, your community, whatever it is that you want to change. And so why would you want to be a thought leader? So you can say as an entrepreneur and as an expert presenter, that is totally fine. But I know you wouldn't be listening to this if that's what you wanted to do. So why would you want to be a thought leader? Because you're not content to just let things be. This is where challenging the status quo comes into place. Lord knows there's a lot of change that we need to see in the United States, in our society, in the world. And I know you are the type of women who want to see that change happen. And that's why you're here. And I'm so grateful for you for wanting that. You know that more is possible. You want to have a bigger impact. And here I think is also when we get down to just thinking about your business, is you want to put more meaning and mission into your business. Of course, sales is important. Working with your clients is incredibly important, but you know there's something more that you want. And I know, Diane, we talk about this a lot, how grateful we are to be able to do the work that we do at Speaking Your Brand, because for us, it feels much, much more than just a business.
Absolutely. If it feels like we're really helping our clients to take themselves to new levels, and it's not just, oh, yes, we create talks with our clients and we do all of those things, but it's really about how that woman sees herself. That is the work that we're doing, right? So it's a bigger mission than just she has to talk, right? It's
Right.
so much bigger than that.
Yeah, we're transforming them.
Yes.
Really, that is, like, obviously we help you with your thought leadership message and your public speaking, but really it's personal development as much as it is that particular deliverable that you get at the end of the work we do
Yes.
together.
Yes, Carol, you actually mentioned this in the podcast episode from today, which was that you had lost your voice and then you started to speak your brand. And then when you were giving that talk recently in person, it dawned on you that you had that why of why you started speaking your brand. And it reminded me that we often do for others and for clients what we ourselves need, right?
Totally.
And so, for example, for me, school and education has always been a safe space. And so now I teach at a university and I teach clients to find their voice, right? So it's what I needed, and I'm giving that to my clients. So
Oh, I love that.
That's what we're doing for people.
Yes, it's so true. And so think about the transformation that you provide the clients in your business, but think now how you can take that to the next level. How can you impact even more people other than just the people you can affect within your business itself? And that's where thought leadership and then being a catalyst comes in. And so a lot of times, women think they have to be an expert and get stuck in this expert trap because, again, because of the patriarchal society that we grow up in, because women need to be seen as more competent than men to get the same professional opportunities. We need those degrees. We need those credentials to get hired, to get those promotions. And so we recognize that is the reality. And a lot of times as women, we're also penalized for having opinions and for speaking up. And that's what thought leadership entails. That's why all the Google search results for thought leaders are men, because they're used to sharing their opinions and speaking up. And all of this much more affects Black women and women of color than even us as white women. So we understand the bind that we are in as women. And that's why I don't want you to abandon being an expert. I just want you to start thinking beyond that. So then let's take a look at 3 things that you can start doing now to shift from expert to thought leader. Let's go back to our slides. All right. So the first thing, and this is the easy one. No, I'm just kidding. Is to start asking yourself why things are the way they are. So this is like, there's some, I don't know if it was Toyota or some company had these like 5 whys. So if something comes up, you're supposed to ask why 5 times to try to get past the superficial answer and really dig deeper, 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 deeper. And so if you think about something that's going on in your industry, your area of expertise, your community, even society as a whole, start asking yourself why things are the way they are. So why is it this way? But then why? But then why? But then why? And you'll get to those deeper reasons. And that's where human behavior and that the idea of thought leaders helping people to be self-reflective, which inspires change, comes into play, because you have to get past those superficial reasons in order to get to that level of transformation and for change. Now, here's where I know some of you are thinking, but my audience doesn't want that. My audience wants to know 3 things they can do on Instagram, right? To increase their followers. And yes, I recognize that there are certain things that we want as far as marketing or sales advice or business advice, but there are other places they can go to get that.
Yes.
And guess what? They're going to pay $20 or $50 for a course that's going to teach them that. They're not going to pay $5,000 or $10,000 as a keynote speaker to learn that.
Right.
They're going to pay that because you're helping your audience to think bigger and to think differently.
Yes.
So that's why you want to start digging into these deeper reasons. I talked about this on the podcast today, the episode about connecting your business and your thought leadership message.
Yes.
Is that my book idea is around that public speaking. I see like the actual act of public speaking being tied to advancing women's leadership and gender equality. That if we don't have more women literally speaking in public, we are not going to achieve gender equality. How did I get to that? I kept asking myself why.
Mhm.
And then I dug in. So that's where your thought leadership comes from. The second thing is, so once you start thinking about these deeper reasons, you do not have to have a perfect answer to them. Start sharing them and start sharing your story, your personal connection to this on social media, in your email newsletter, on your podcast, if you have a LinkedIn live show, etc., because that's where you're going to develop these ideas further. Cannot develop them in a vacuum. You have to put them out there. That's why I'm putting my ideas out there, even though they're not fully formed yet, because I want to get feedback from other people around that. And I know we have a couple of examples here of some of our clients. We have Christy Zavakar. She is very active on LinkedIn because she's also a LinkedIn strategist. So you can
Mhm.
look her up here. And she's in our advanced program, Catalyst Collective, right now. And she had just launched a brand new thought leadership initiative called First and Sober. Chrissy has been sober for a few years now and has been an integral part of her professional and personal development. So
Mhm.
she really wants to put that out there. So she started asking herself why, and now she's sharing this and sharing her story on social media, even though I'm sure she doesn't feel like it's fully formed or she doesn't know where this is going to end up, but she's willing to put it out there now.
Yes, and she actually commented in a post on LinkedIn this morning that she specifically chose LinkedIn to launch it because, LinkedIn is this buttoned up, "Oh, I'm this professional, so and so, whatever you do, network," knowing that, okay, there's probably other people like her who were struggling with that, and it's a great place to kind of make that connection with them. So I
Mm.
love that idea of using her personal story and really thinking about where she wanted to put that out into the world in a way that was meaningful and would really have an impact, a greater impact on whoever hears that message.
Well, that's such a great point, Diane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really love that she
I was
said that.
fascinated. Yeah.
Well, and here's another woman who's in our Thought Leader Academy right now that's getting ready to graduate, Kathy Clotes Guest. She's also
Mhm.
very active on LinkedIn, so look her up. And she is working on her new keynote. That's why she joined the Thought Leader Academy, to work on her new keynote, which, and the topic is around truth gap. So why do we have a gap in truth, and who we can trust and what information we trust? Is we have this thing called, what she calls the truth gap.
Mhm.
And because she has this background in humor and comedy and improv, she's looking at the way humor can be used as a way to change and transformation and to closing this truth gap. So she kept asking herself these why questions to get at why these things were happening in our businesses and in our society. And then she used her area of expertise, which is humor, to tie
Mhm.
those things together. And now she's sharing a lot about that on her social media.
Yes, I love that.
And then Diane, we also have our
Mm.
client, Bessie Jordan,
Yes.
who went through our Thought Leader Academy a year ago.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about her and what she recognized.
Yes, she has a really great story. Now, she works with people who are consultants and people who want to really take their consulting practice to the next level and kind of, need her help to do that because she's been consulting and she's been in corporate and she's done all that stuff, right? So that's her expert area. But she, I think, was a little bit hesitant to kind of share some of her personal story, and it was kind of getting in the way of her going to that next level. And then it dawned on her during, I think, one of our Thought Leader Academy calls that what was getting in her way was actually the way to her bigger message, to her thought leadership. So it was kind of standing right in front of her, but she didn't realize it. And that was a big epiphany for her.
Yeah, and she was on the podcast last year, I think
Yes.
last summer sometime, and we talked in more depth about that. And then she launched her podcast
Mhm.
called Enough Already, and which is now
Yes.
developing into her thought leadership message and her signature talk.
Yes, I love that. I love when the thing, like your message is kind of right in front of you, but you don't see it. And then it really takes someone like, we are like the sounding board for that. And that's the benefit of the Thought Leader Academy is we are the ones kind of pushing you to ask those five whys, like why? And that's where she had that realization. So I just love that.
Me too. And then I just think about these women. I feel again so grateful to be able to
Oh my
work with
gosh.
such
It's
incredible women,
amazing.
like the women who are in the chat right now, Amber and Rhonda
Yes.
and Sarah, and so nice to see you all.
Yes.
All right, so then the third thing you can start doing now is I challenge you for your very next presentation, your next speaking engagement, whether it's virtual or in person. Replace half of your regular teaching content with thought leadership content.
Mhm.
You could do all of it, but I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you to
Just
do
do
half of it.
one. Yeah.
Take half of it. And
Just
I
half.
promise you, your audience is not going to walk away feeling like there wasn't value. They're actually probably going to walk away feeling like, wow, that was really inspiring and memorable. And I have something to think about that I didn't think about before. And I know that, Diane, you've been working with another one of our women who went through the Thought Leader Academy last year. She's in our Catalyst Collective that just started, Shanta Wilkinson. And tell us a little bit about how she has shifted some of her content.
Yeah, so Shanta does work in the DEI and equity, inclusion, all of like that space with corporations, with very large companies, and she obviously wants to teach them something because there's a lot around that. And oftentimes it's clients who are maybe they themselves, don't have to deal with the things they might be largely white audiences, but they want to better understand how can they make safer spaces for their employees, for their clients, those types of things. And so she wanted to go a little bit deeper beyond just the, do XYZ in your company, right? And so in the delivery of the workshops she brings in her own personal stories. And she has this really beautiful story about when she was a child and a Cabbage Patch doll. It's really an amazing story, but she brings in her personal stories and examples. And we talked about lots of examples that she has in her own personal life, and she weaves those through. So are they learning 3 things they can do, 5 things? Yes, they're learning that, but she's taking it one step further by replacing some of that content with personal stories, thought leadership message of the why behind why it is important and why it matters for her and why it should matter for them too.
Exactly. And the result has been that they keep bringing her back.
Yes. Yes, it's amazing that she keeps getting asked back because I think she really taps into her story is hers, but it has universal appeal, right? And so she taps into that part that connects with them and what's meaningful to them, and really shows them that there's something beyond just the step 1, step 2, step 3 of it. So they do invite her back.
Yes, which means that she continues to earn revenue from those companies. And that's like
Absolutely.
the best thing to do is to keep earning revenue from the clients that you already have. So
Yes.
that's fantastic. All right. So as we mentioned at the top of our LinkedIn Live today, this is the speaker journey that we see that is available to you that you can definitely do. But
Mhm.
here's the thing. Very few speakers make it past level 2, which is expert presenter.
Yes.
Most of them stay there. We see
Yes.
them at conferences.
Mhm.
And again, it doesn't mean that their content doesn't have usefulness to it, but they're limited there. They're never going to grow past that. And so if you want to move yourself into the thought leadership space, hopefully what we talked about today will help to give you some inspiration and some motivation to start doing it and to start replacing some of your content with thought leadership content. And of course, we would love to help you to do that in our Thought Leader Academy. Our next group is starting a week from today, January
I'm
18th.
excited.
I know, I can't wait it. Of course, the women who have joined already are incredible, just like all the women that we work with are.
Yes.
And so in our Thought Leader Academy, we take you through our 5-step process. You start with thinking about your thought leadership message. What is your big idea? And how does your personal story, your personal journey connect to your expertise and to your thought leadership message? And then you work on your signature talk. So you actually create 2 different versions of your signature talk. One is a keynote TED style signature talk. And then the other version is a lead generation, business focused signature talk. So you have both of them depending on what type of event you're doing. Then the third thing that you work on is your visibility strategy. So your speaking proposals, your podcast pitches, a speaking page on your website, optimizing your LinkedIn profile for those inbound speaking invitations. So you work on that. And then step 4 is monetization methods. So what are you going to charge to speak? What are common speaking fees? We help you to figure that out, whether it's keynotes, workshops, virtual presentations, and so on. And then we also work on delivery. So how can you make the best impression on your audience, whether virtual or in person or hybrid, for when you have audiences that are going to be both live in person and online at the same time? So how can you make sure that you're delivering with clarity and with confidence? So if you would like to join our Thought Leader Academy, I invite you to go to speakingyourbrand.com/academy. All of the details are on there, and then you can apply. So just fill out the application form. Do it as soon as possible, because in the next step after that is to schedule a Zoom call with one of us, and we'll talk through your application, talk about your goals, talk about the challenges that you're currently facing. Make sure the Thought Leader Academy is the best fit for you. And if it is, then we'll go ahead and get you enrolled to start next week. Let's see. Amber Holly said that Thought Leader Academy was fantastic, really solidified her thinking about her message and putting herself out there after doing the program. Well, thank you, Amber. We loved having you there. And Sarah Sarah is going to be in our Thought Leader Academy that starts next week. And she said that the graphic with the speaker journey was such an eye opener for her when she first saw it. Yes, exactly. It is.
Yes.
And here's the thing, is that is an example of us putting our thought leadership in action. And so we'll in our Thought Leader Academy, we teach you. So again, like, we are experts. We're going to teach you the things that you need to know. But you notice when we go deliver content, to like public facing content, we're hopefully helping you to think bigger, to think differently. We're not teaching you, here's how to put together your speaking fees.
Right.
We're going to do that in our program. But here is where we want you to think differently, because we want to attract you into working with us. And that's the same thing you want to do when you put your content.
Yes. And I would say, just to add one other thing to think about, when you go to conferences, whether they're virtual, in person, talks, you go to lunch and learns, whatever they are, take a look and see, and this isn't meant to disparage any speakers, but it's just, I think, where women are, as Carol mentioned, like, we are the trainers, right? And so if you'll see a lot of the speakers, someone trains on whatever the topic is, and there's probably 10 other speakers that are going to share probably a lot of the same information. So what you don't want is to be one of those interchangeable speakers, because they could choose one or the other, or you or someone else. And that's great. But if you stand out by kind of going to that next level and going more of a thought leadership route, that is where you become an in-demand speaker, because now you are pushing the audience, and the event organizers know that, right? And they want someone who's really going to push the audience and give a really great experience that makes the audience think and makes the audience want to come to their event. So that is the gold for you as a speaker, as a business owner, as a thought leader, is to go to that next level and don't be one of the interchangeable topic speakers.
Very well said, Diane. Thank you so much. That is exactly it. And Sarah added here in the chat that we just had our Jumpstart coaching call last week. And she said that it's already got her thinking about what she's doing and saying it in a different way.
Oh, wonderful.
Fantastic. That is our aim. So I'm so excited. So again, if you want to check out the Thought Leader Academy, go to speakingyourbrand.com/academy. We would love to have you join us. If it's the right fit for you, if you know you're ready in 2022 to put yourself out there in a bigger way. I hear from so many women that they wish they had started doing this earlier in their business. And I totally understand that. And no matter what year in business you are, whether you're in your year 2 or year 5 or year 10, it always feels like there's 1,000 things to do. I get it. Yet your thought leadership message and really clarifying what it is that you do in your business and why you do it is going to set the foundation for so many of the other things that you want to do in your business and in your professional development.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for participating in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, be sure to say hi to us in the comments. If you have any questions along the way, please let us know. And we hope to see your application come through. Thank you, Diane.
We'll be looking for it. Thank you, Carol.